I'm Evelyn. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary was coming up. I had spent nearly 3 weeks preparing their gift, a custom oil painting commissioned from New York, recreating our old house in Maine where we lived in the early 90s. I also hand-wrote a long letter on recycled brown paper, tied with thin twine like the kind Mom used to wrap pies around Thanksgiving. I wasn't expecting a grand event, just a seat at the table, a thank you, a moment of being seen, maybe a hug from Mom or Dad's eyes meeting mine with a small nod as I walked in. On Monday morning, after wrapping the gift, I picked up my phone and hovered over Mom's number. It had been a long time since I initiated a call. It rang only twice before someone picked up. "Evelyn!" Mom's voice came through, slightly uneasy. I smiled, keeping my tone as light as I could. "I was thinking of coming home a few days early to help with the party setup. I can string up lights or move chairs around if you need me." Silence. The faint clinking of dishes in the background. I heard Dad mutter something low. Then Mom spoke again, slowly and carefully. "Maybe this year you should stay in Ohio." My heart stopped. "Why?" She cleared her throat. "It's nothing, really. It's just your sister, Melanie, she's bringing her boyfriend to meet the family. We're keeping it small, intimate. I'm not intimate enough?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom sighed. "You know how it is. Not everyone clicks. Your father and I both think this is best for everyone." Best for everyone, except me. I was still holding the phone when the call ended. No goodbye, no see you soon. As if I was never part of the plan. Flashes came to mind, standing in the rain at 15 waiting for Mom after my first orchestra recital. No one came. At 22, hosting my own college graduation because the family was busy taking Melanie to her dance competition. I thought years of quiet and sacrifice would eventually be enough to be acknowledged. I set the gift box on the table. The corner of the gray mou fabric wrapping had slipped, revealing the soft pencil strokes of the artist. What would happen if I just showed up? Stood in front of them with this gift? Would they turn away, ignore me, introduce me as the cousin from Indiana? I scoffed, not because I was sad, but because in that moment I realized I was never a part of the family picture they painted. I didn't blame Melanie. She was always the centerpiece, the one with the laugh that turned heads, the one chosen to speak at Aunt Ruth's wedding, even though I was her biological niece. Still, I thought Mom would at least save me a place beside her. Clearly, she didn't. I pulled the armchair closer to the window, sat down, and stared at the damp yard still glistening from last night's rain. Seattle had been gray for weeks, but today, a soft light filtered through the frosted glass. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. No one could stop me from loving my family, but no one could force me to keep enduring this rehearsed coldness, disguised as what's best for everyone. 3 days after that call, I still hadn't moved the painting from the dining table. It sat there, like a quiet reminder. I once believed I mattered. Saturday came, and Seattle had sun, a rare thing. I opened the balcony doors, brewed a cup of chamomile tea, and planned to spend the whole afternoon finishing a book I'd abandoned months ago. But out of habit, or maybe something deeper, I picked up my phone and opened Facebook, as if searching for proof that I hadn't been forgotten. My feet loaded a stream of party photos, ivory tablecloths, tall golden candles, a backdrop reading 40th anniversary, Diana, Walter, and Diana, my parents' names. There were family photos. Of course, I wasn't in any of them. Melanie stood at the center, her blonde hair curled, wearing a wine-red fitted dress, holding a gift box. The gray mou fabric-wrapped box that I had prepared. My heart skipped. I pinched the screen to zoom in. No mistake. The penciled roofline, the crimson maple tree in front of the old house. Every detail I had asked the artist to include, now in my sister's hands. She was smiling, radiant, as if she had commissioned the painting, thought up the idea. Below the photo, Mom had written, "Thank you, Melanie, for such a heartfelt gift. So proud of you. My baby girl always knows how to make things special." I read it 3 times. No footnote, no mention that the gift came from me. No one in the pictures even glanced toward the door, as if no one expected me to show up. I kept scrolling. A photo of Melanie handing the gift to our parents. One of the whole family laughing. One of the 3-tier cake with their names, and on top a card with handwriting unmistakably mine. I had written, 40 years of love, thank you for showing me what family means. Those words had now become Melanie's photo caption. Mom commented below, so thoughtful, Melanie. You've grown up and still know how to touch my heart. I put the phone down. My throat felt dry. For a moment, it didn't feel real. Then a notification popped up. Melanie is truly amazing. She'll be the heart of the family one day. From a relative. The same one who once sent me a belated birthday card, 7 days late with my name spelled wrong. I wanted to turn the phone off, but I couldn't look away. Each photo was a quiet cut. Each caption, a new version of the story where I didn't exist. And then I saw a comment from one of Melanie's old friends. What about Evelyn? Doesn't she live in Seattle? Mom replied a few minutes later. Evelyn's busy with work, probably not comfortable with big gatherings. She rarely joins these things. Rarely joins? I once drove 12 hours from Ohio just to make it in time for Grandma's birthday. I once cooked our entire Christmas dinner when Mom had the flu. But in her version, I was a shadow. Someone who had issues with crowds. Someone too busy to blame. I sat there, watching the sunlight shift on the hardwood floor, my heart cold. No one stole my gift. No one took the painting. They didn't need to. They just needed someone to retell the story in a way that erased me. And Melanie, with her polished charm and easy laugh, made that retelling effortless. I didn't cry. I picked up the original letter, the one I had written but hadn't sealed in the box yet. I had planned to mail it separately. Now it felt meaningless. I slipped it into another envelope and addressed it to myself. Not to remind me I tried, but to acknowledge, maybe for the first time, that I had loved them. They just didn't want to keep it. This time, I didn't call. I didn't text to ask why. I didn't demand a correction. I stood up, made myself a fresh cup of coffee, and opened my laptop. The logo of the international law firm where I served as deputy director lit up the screen. They could take the gift, the words, even my presence from the collective memory. But what they didn't know, what they never thought to consider, was that I had been the one who approved the funding that helped Melanie's boyfriend's startup land its recent investment 2 weeks ago. I started typing. An email. A revision. A polite warning. I didn't need to reclaim a seat in the family photo. I just needed them to remember I was never gone. I thought the story would end there, with them stealing my words and replacing my name in the memory of others. But I underestimated their silence. A few days after the anniversary, strange messages began appearing in my work inbox. An anonymous email was sent to my company's admin department with the subject line, "Concern regarding Evelyn Moore, senior staff." At first, I assumed it was a mistake, until HR forwarded it to me. Someone in Pacific Law's leadership is mistreating relatives due to personal bias. This unprofessional behavior may affect key partnerships. No name, no signature, no specific evidence, just vague enough to spark suspicion among those who didn't know better. An hour later, I got a message from a former colleague in New Jersey. "Eve, is everything okay? Someone on our alumni group said you cut off your family because you're jealous of your sister." I wasn't sure whether to laugh or feel sick. Cut off my family? I was the one erased from the photo. I opened Facebook and went to my Aunt Sharon's old profile. She frequently posted family pictures. Under her post congratulating Melanie for becoming a thoughtful, mature woman, there were comments from relatives I'd only met once, back at a Thanksgiving 8 years ago. What kind of daughter doesn't congratulate her parents on their special day? Or Evelyn still lives alone out west, always been cold. She's successful, sure, but never shares with anyone. How can someone like that be happy? No one corrected them. No one in the family spoke up to say, Evelyn sent a gift. No one mentioned that I had called, that I had tried. I became the odd sister, the ungrateful one, the ice queen hiding behind her career. The lies spread faster than I expected. An old classmate even left a public comment. I worked with Evelyn in a project group once. Smart, but extremely hard to approach. I'm not surprised her family finds her distant. I wasn't shocked anymore, just numb. Not because they thought badly of me, but because they so easily believed in a version of Evelyn I had never been. I sent Melanie a message. Just 3 lines. I've seen what you're letting them say. You know what's true. Silence is a form of complicity. She saw it, didn't reply. A week later, I received an invitation to a legal symposium in Denver, where I was scheduled to speak on gender equity in the legal field. Beneath the event's announcement post, an anonymous account commented, "Ironic that someone like Evelyn would talk about fairness in families." I knew someone was rewriting the story, bit by bit, quietly, with intent. I didn't delete the comment. I left it there, as evidence that the truth was being twisted. That evening, sitting alone in my 12th floor apartment, I opened my laptop and created a new document. I titled it Chronicle of Silence. I began recording every key moment. The day I called my mother. The day I sent the gift. The photos of that gift being claimed by someone else. Every distorted comment, every fabricated email. I saved it all. Not out of revenge, but to protect the truth. At the time, I was at the office. A meeting had run longer than expected, and I missed my flight back to Portland. Not because I wanted to be near them, but because I had a client meeting in the same area as Melanie's boyfriend's new tech startup, the one currently seeking a second round of funding from the investment firm I manage. I was seated in the 17th floor conference room, under warm lighting with the scent of strong, wood-toned coffee in the air. Just under 10 miles away, their startup's launch party was in full swing. I hadn't been invited, of course, but one of the new investors, Mr. Fisher, had casually suggested I stop by for the evening networking session, if Miss Evelyn doesn't mind making a surprise appearance. I'd planned to go, but then a message came through. Evelyn, something just happened. It was from Marissa, now working PR for the event organizer. She didn't explain, just attached a 47-second voice recording. I put in my earbuds, and from the very first line, I knew. The party they had worked so hard to make perfect had cracked. A young man's voice, excited and bright. You guys won't believe it, I just started at ArcLight Ventures last week, still blown away by how massive the place is. Laughter in the clink of glasses. My direct supervisor is Evelyn Moore. She's tough but fair, the kind of woman you feel proud to work under. Silence. A long pause echoed in the recording. Someone coughed awkwardly. Then a woman tried to joke. Oh, Evelyn? Moore? Dorian, his voice unmistakable, continued, unaware of the shift. Yeah, Melanie's sister. You all know, right? Evelyn's one of the co-founders of ArcLight. She's the one who signed off on this company's last round of funding. Really impressive. The recording ended with the sound of a glass shattering. I took out my earbuds, still gripping the edge of the table. Not out of anger, but because I hadn't expected it to unravel this quickly. I thought the truth might take months to surface. But Dorian, with his admirable cluelessness and severe lack of political tact, had blown the whole thing open with one compliment. I texted Marissa back. Thanks. Let it play out naturally. Don't interfere. She replied with one more update. Melody's pulling Dorian into the hallway. Your mom looks frozen. Walter, your dad, is standing like a statue. I couldn't help but smile. Not sweetly, not bitterly. The smile of someone who had laid out the board long ago, just never expected a pawn to make the perfect move by accident. I imagined the scene, my father awkwardly sipping his wine, my mother forcing a strained smile to save face in front of the guests, and Melanie probably shooting daggers at her boyfriend with her eyes. Because now everyone knew. The daughter they badmouthed, the one labeled ungrateful, was in fact the decision maker behind the investment that brought nearly $750,000 into the future son-in-law's startup. And Dorian, bless him, didn't realize that Evelyn Moore wasn't a name to brag about. It was a crack in the glossy wall they had painted with lies. An hour later, I got an email from Internal Strategy. "Evelyn, seems like your name came up a lot tonight. Want us to manage PR on this?" I typed back, "No need. They'll handle the fallout on their own." That night, I got home late. Rain had begun to fall softly. When I checked my phone, there was a message from Melanie, her first in weeks. "So I guess you know everything now. I didn't expect Dorian to be that stupid." I didn't respond right away. I waited until the morning sun broke through the clouds, then wrote, "Don't blame Dorian. You should thank him. Thanks to him, for once in that room, the truth finally showed up." The atmosphere at the banquet hall froze. Just half an hour earlier, praise for Melanie had been echoing from every corner. Now, all eyes had turned to Dorian, the promising new boyfriend who had just dropped a bomb in the middle of their carefully orchestrated celebration. My old college friend Laurel happened to be at the event as a representative of a partnering law firm. She was the first to call me the next morning, voice buzzing with disbelief. "Evelyn, you have no idea how fast the story spread. Your name was on everyone's lips. People thought you were just the estranged older sister, and it turns out you were the one who signed off on an investment worth nearly $1 million. They were stunned." I let out a small laugh over the phone. And Melanie? Visibly shaken, she dragged Dorian outside within 3 minutes of his comment. But it was too late. The damage was done. Laurel continued, saying some guests weren't shy about speaking their minds. "If Evelyn holds that kind of power, why didn't the family ever mention her? So the one they've been putting down this whole time is actually the person backing this entire company?" I could picture my mother's expression. She was always good at redirecting a conversation, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with a vague sigh. But now the truth had surfaced, and silence wasn't a shield anymore. It was weight. My father, the one who once said I was too cold for family ties, said nothing all night. He simply stood there, half some wine glass in hand, eyes darting for somewhere to land. After the party, the flood of messages hit like a burst dam. Aunt, the same woman who used to mock me as a career-obsessed single woman over 35, sent a cryptic message. "They didn't realize you were doing so well, sweetie. Stop by sometime when you're in town." I didn't respond. 7 minutes later, another ping. "I mean, if any interesting investment opportunities come up, don't forget about me." I set the phone down and poured myself a glass of water. The faint scent of mint from the potted plant near the window drifted across the room. For the first time in weeks, everything felt in place. No shouting, no proving, just silence, and the sound of their own lies cracking apart under the weight of truth. On Monday morning, I arrived early at the office. My assistant, Hannah, had left a beige envelope on my desk. No return address, handwritten. From the Moore household. I didn't open it right away. I reviewed an email from the managing director, signed off on 3 financial documents, and then slowly peeled back the flap. Inside was a handwritten letter. My mother's handwriting. "Evelyn, I don't know where to start. Saturday night made me realize maybe I've misunderstood you for too long. When Dorian mentioned you, it felt like everything crumbled, not because you're successful, but because I knew I couldn't deny you in front of others anymore. I know you're angry. I don't blame you. But I hope you know maybe I've been too partial. Not because you weren't good enough, but because I was used to Melanie needing protection, and in that, I forgot about you. If there's still any space left in you for this family, I'd like to see you. Just once." I finished reading. I didn't cry, but my hand tightened around the desk's edge. Not from emotion, but because I knew. Not a single line acknowledged the public humiliation I'd endured for years. They didn't apologize for erasing me from the photos, not a word about the gift I sent, now falsely credited to Melanie. No one asked, "Are you okay?" I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the left drawer, the one where I kept things I wasn't ready to throw out, but no longer wanted to carry. They might have just begun to feel shame, but I had stopped waiting long ago. And the most painful truth for them might be this: I no longer need their explanation. The first message came while I was in a meeting with a client from Singapore, right as the shared screen displayed our newly closed $2.3 million investment. A notification popped up in the corner. Melanie Moore. "Hey sis, can I ask you something? I promise it's not anything bad." I didn't respond. An hour later, when the meeting ended, I opened my phone to find 4 more messages. "I'm sorry about everything that happened. You know how mom is? She didn't mean to hurt you. I was honestly surprised too when they said you weren't coming." And finally, "Do you think there's a way for Dorian to be moved into the strategy division? His current boss is kind of old school." I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the ceiling. Honestly, I had been expecting this question. I just didn't think they'd come right out with it. No softening, no cover. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. "Evelyn, I just spoke to Melanie. She may be clumsy, but her intentions aren't bad. Dorian really admires you. If you could help him out a little, it would put all our minds at ease. It's also about Melanie's future, you know? Don't let a small misunderstanding get in the way of something good. I know you're the kind of person who thinks things through." I held the phone away from my ear, every word cut the way only familiar phrases can. Sweet on the surface, barbed underneath. No one asked how I felt. No acknowledgement that they had excluded me from every celebration, or once labeled me too cold to love properly. I walked to the window and looked down at Newmark Street. Cars moving, people rushing. From the 22nd floor, everything looked smaller and somehow clearer. I reopened the chat with Melanie and typed, "Do you know what I was thinking while you stood there holding my gift?" Message read, no reply. So I continued, "I'm not mad that you held it. I'm mad because you knew it wasn't yours and still stayed quiet when Mom credited you." 5 minutes later, she finally responded. As everyone was looking at me, I didn't know what to do. Mom didn't say anything either. I didn't want to ruin the mood. I set the phone down, then picked it up again and typed one final line. "And now you're asking me to save that same relationship from falling apart, aren't you?" No one replied after that, but that evening I received an email, this time from Dad. Subject, "I'd like to talk." He wrote, "I know it may be too late, but I want you to understand. Family is still family. Dorian's a good guy. If you see potential in him, consider helping him. It's not just about Melanie. It's a way for all of us to sit at the same table again. No need to let this distance keep growing." I reread the line. If you see potential. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They were offering a trade, draped in pleasant-sounding words. I wasn't angry. Honestly, I found it laughable. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. I pulled up Dorian's file at ArcLight. He was smart, capable, but his development plan wasn't strong enough yet for the strategy team. In fact, I had been the one to temporarily pause his request for transfer just a week earlier, due to unclear long-term goals. I added a new note to his record. "Do not consider promotion for the next 6 months. Recommend assignment to an independent project for further assessment." I didn't reject him. I didn't favor him. I did what any fair leader should do. To my family, that might have felt like a cold refusal. But to me, it was a boundary, one they don't get to cross simply by invoking the word family. That night, Melanie messaged me again. "So, you're not going to help?" I typed back, clean and sharp. "I'm not refusing. I've just stopped being anyone's backup wallet." She didn't reply this time, but I knew they understood. They understood that the Evelyn they once saw as a background figure in the family portrait was gone. and no apology would ever be enough to buy back the silence they once treated like it came for free. I started with the simple things. I stopped paying the utility bills on the Beaverton apartment in Mom's name. I canceled Dad's dental insurance, the one I'd been quietly covering for the past 4 years because he didn't want Medicare involved in his personal files. I ended the automatic $800 monthly transfers to Melanie's side account, the so-called emergency fund, which was mostly used for spa days, stylists, or dresses she never wore twice. I didn't send a notice, no warning, not a word of explanation. And like people who've grown used to help they never acknowledged, they reacted as if I'd betrayed them. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice came through, tight with tension. "Evelyn, this is Patrick from Senior HR. There's a sensitive matter we need to clarify with you." I sat upright. "What's going on, Patrick?" He hesitated, then got to the point. "This morning we received an anonymous email addressed to the entire board. It alleges that you misused your authority, showing favoritism to your sister's boyfriend during the investment approval process, and that there may be a personal conflict of interest in financial decisions." I closed my eyes. My heart didn't race. I just felt cold. Patrick continued, his voice cautious. "They attached snippets of emails, clearly edited, and a suspicious-looking transfer record. We don't believe it outright, but we'll need your cooperation to get ahead of this before it spreads." I nodded, calm. "Send me everything. I'll prepare a full response within 24 hours. And Patrick?" "Yeah. If they try to spin this again, I won't keep it internal next time." When I hung up, I wasn't angry. I just felt something inside me finally die. The part that used to forgive, used to whisper, "They're family. They don't mean it." I called Hannah, my trusted assistant, and asked her to retrieve all documentation related to Dorian's investment. Hiring procedures, meeting minutes, public scoring sheets, third-party risk assessments. I also pulled every personal transaction made to the Moore household in the past 4 years to show I had supported an entire system that never acknowledged me, but turned on me the moment their benefits stopped. By midday, I had a 54-page report in hand, time-stamped, signed, and verified by external sources. I sent a copy to legal, one to the executive committee, and one to myself. Hardbound, page-numbered, handed to me by Hannah like a quiet reminder. "You did everything right from the beginning. They just didn't want to face that." That evening, another message came in, this time from an unsaved number, but the tone was unmistakable. "If something slipped, maybe handle it gently. Dragging this out only makes things worse for everyone." I took a screenshot, said nothing. Instead, I sent a brief email to legal. "Please append this to the official file. If necessary, I'm prepared to go public, with full disclosure of past financial support to expose the motives behind this accusation." This wasn't about reputation anymore, or fairness. It was about honor. The one thing they couldn't buy back, no matter how many chances I once gave them. 3 days later, the board responded to the anonymous email with an internal statement. "No misconduct found by Deputy Director Evelyn Moore. The investment file is transparent and meets compliance standards." The closing line carried weight. "Any attempt to spread false information for personal reasons will be further investigated, including anonymous sources." I didn't speak to my family, didn't return calls, didn't send messages. I knew they'd read it. I knew they understood. And for the first time, I knew they were afraid. Not because I was angry, but because I had finally stopped trying to save them. The emergency meeting took place Tuesday morning in the 19th floor conference room reserved only for high-level legal risk and PR crisis discussions. I walked in with a bound report, my laptop, and a Mont Blanc pen. Nothing else. Board Chair Adrian Foster spoke first. "Evelyn, thank you for coming and responding so quickly. We've reviewed all the legal documents and had them independently verified. Thankfully, you've documented nearly every financial support you've provided to your family." I nodded and slid the file across the table. "I have nothing to hide, Miss Foster, but I need the board to understand this isn't just an attack on reputation. This is a pattern of manipulation." The room fell silent. I continued. For years, I financially supported my parents and sister. I never asked for gratitude, but I won't accept being slandered just because I chose to stop. Do you have any idea who sent the anonymous email? One board member asked. I didn't hesitate. I'm not making formal accusations, but I've submitted IP trace evidence showing the email originated from a device in the same network used by Melanie Moore for 2 consecutive days. A low murmur filled the room. Miss Foster raised her hand to silence it, then gave a slow nod. You're not seeking legal action? I shook my head. I don't need compensation. I need an official statement from the board confirming I've committed no professional misconduct. She signed it on the spot. I stood, bowed my head slightly. Thank you for allowing me to defend myself. I think it's time. That afternoon, I went home. Rain began tapping softly against the roof. I opened my laptop and logged into the old transfer portals I had set up years ago. Line by line, it appeared. The $1,500 sent every quarter to my parents, labeled Winter Living Support. $800 per month to Melanie, mental health expenses, a one-time transfer of $2,000 to help the new brother-in-law with his car payments. I clicked cancel all authorizations. No dramatic soundtrack, no thunderclaps, just 3 quiet clicks. Click, click, click. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from Dad, a voicemail from Mom, an email from Melanie riddled with typos, subject line, "Please don't be cruel." I didn't respond. Instead, I booked a flight to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, a place I'd never been but always wanted to experience. I reserved a small cabin overlooking pine woods. No TV, no strong phone signal. I brought only 2 books, 1 set of hiking clothes, and a small photo, me as a child beside my grandfather, the only one who ever saw me as someone of real worth. That first night, I built a fire in the hearth. Wind howled through the trees outside, but inside, I sat cross-legged on the thick rug, sipping cinnamon tea, and wrote a few lines in my notebook. Some families don't break with shouting. They break in silence stretched over years. And when you finally stand up, they call you the traitor. I closed the notebook. No bitterness, just clarity. A week later, back in Seattle, I found a package in my mailbox. No sender name. Inside was an old family photo. The one I remembered had a torn corner. Now it had been taped back together, with obvious, uneven, clear tape. Tucked inside was a small note. Weren't we once a family? I stared at the photo for a long time. No, we were never a family. Not by the definition I believe in. Because in a real family, people don't erase you from the story and then ask you to rescue them when everything collapses. I placed the photo in the drawer beside Mom's handwritten letter from the week before. Then I closed it. No lock, but I knew I'd never open it again. I didn't need a final conversation. I didn't need a reconciliatory hug staged for YouTube. I didn't need their remorse timed just right to make them seem noble. All I needed was what I had claimed for myself after all these years. A life of my own, not defined by others. Not by the role of eldest daughter. Not by the title of perfect child, and certainly not by reverse pity. And for the first time, I felt free. No apology required, no recognition needed, no reason to return. I didn't disappear. I just walked away. In the right direction. Evelyn's story is clear proof that sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to forgive, but to walk away with intention. In a family where love comes with conditions, silence is often mistaken for weakness. But Evelyn showed us that you can live kindly, succeed with integrity, and hold your ground without needing validation from those who only saw you as useful. This wasn't a tale of revenge, but of knowing when to put down the final period and start writing a life that no one else can control. What do you think of Evelyn's choice? Would you have the courage to draw your own line like she did? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, real-life family stories.